Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am Doreen Simpson, the president of Remember the 400, and to my left we have
Tyrone Soiree, the vice president of the Remember the 400 Foundation.
Together, yes, we are the Remember the 400 Foundation, which is a nonprofit corporation founded by Shadrach Porter, an advocate for empowering the children of slavery, for teaching their identity, and for social justice.
Absolutely, and Shadrach Porter has been advocating this for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Well over 40 years. He's been advocating the right standing of our people to come back to who they are by teaching them, by giving knowledge, so that we understand what kind of a people we were who were enslaved of the 18 countries from West Africa. But also try to let us know that we are also a people that have great talent, that have great abilities, whether it be in acting, entertainment, singing industry, and that needs to be honed and that needs to be looked at. Our young boys and girls, Shadrach has also said, need to be taught about their greatness and where they've come from. Like understanding that we weren't slaves.
That's right.
Initially.
That's
like
right.
who just is then born a slave and then captive.
Yeah, that's right.
And so Shadrach Porter has been advocating the social changes and the injustices that's been done to our people for many, many years now, since the time we've got onto the shores of Hampton, Virginia in 1619.
That's right.
We've been treated incredibly badly, being killed, being sold as cattle, told that we're nothing, stripped our names, everything, and our identity been taken from us. And this is something that Shadrach Porter, who founded the Remember the 400 Foundation, has been trying to educate our people for many years now and say, look guys, this is who you are and you need to return back to your true identity to know where you're going.
No, and you're right. And it's no wonder why Mr. Porter has left this organization for us to even carry it further and has established August as Freedom Month for the children of slavery, for the descendants of the children of slaves, to say, hey, you are all part of the transatlantic slave trade, right? That diaspora where we were scattered through all the four corners of the earth. This is the time now, this month, this specific month out of the year, let's come together collectively all over the world to say we recognize, we acknowledge, we commemorate, and that we are proud people, a resilient people. We're not going to forget our past. We're going to remember, because it's funny, like other nations, they're always remembering what they've been through.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're always teaching about the Holocaust or this and that. But our people, for whatever reason, when we bring up slavery, it's like a term that is degrading and no one wants to hear it. It's taboo. Yeah. Oh, why you got to bring that up again?
Right, and you're absolutely right, because I can remember growing up that, the term slavery, we're talking about what happened, it was like, we don't want to talk about that, or just forget about that now. That's a different time. But if we don't remember where we've come from, how do we know where we're going?
That's right.
mean, we're not just a wandering nation of people, or people just wandering around, and we call ourselves many different bywords. Like, for example, this is one that kind of I've never really understood, being called African and American.
right. Or African Canadian.
It's kind of weird.
So are you African Jamaican?
There you go. Or I've never heard of a Italian American,
right?
For example, or Spanish American. It's just weird. But why is it always with us? There seems to be this stigma and this names attached to who we actually are as a people. And I can remember also, and it's funny that you said that about growing up in the other nations, knowing their identity.
Yeah.
Now, I can remember being taken on holiday when I was very young, and I was taken to a slave island, and this is just off the shore of Senegal, Dakar. And so this island is called Gore, and it was known for where the slaves, this was the last time those that were taken and captured as slaves were going to see that land. So they were rounded up, and they were now shipped over to this particular island. They were sorted, the males, the females, and the children, and they were now being ready to be shipped away. And they stayed in terrible living conditions. And I can remember going down into the belly of where they were kept and the chains and they were held in the belly underneath the actual houses or the wonderful houses that the slave masters were celebrating upstairs because they've just made so much money from capturing all these slaves. And these slaves were downstairs in the belly where the sea would come in, because this is salt water now. So the sea would come in down there whilst they're in these dungeon-like places, and it would rot their body. So they had to stay in that cold. Then they were shipped off into the ships, and they'll never see it no more. And just seeing that is incredibly emotional. Why would you want to forget that? Why would you want to say
that this has happened to my mother and my mother's mother and my father and my father's father? Like, this has happened to our people.
Absolutely. And then they were now scattered. Now, mother would end up maybe on the East Coast.
And you had to travel there, right?
I know, I had to travel
understand, because that's not taught to us.
No.
That's not readily found anywhere.
No.
Right?
Even
if you go and sit in front of your computer and try to type something, the information doesn't always come up so easily.
It doesn't always come up.
It's like hidden.
Absolutely. And even if we look just in general with history, like, when is the best time to make your trade? It's always going to be in the summer months.
That's right.
And the reason why it's in the summer months is because everybody's available and they're there to make the decisions. They're ready to spend. So in August is profoundly important for us because there's been numerous documented and even undocumented events that's taken place in August that is significant to those that went through that transatlantic slave trade during that time. So for us to remember what happened there, and as a people, August is a great month for us to have as Freedom Month.
The people traveled, right, in diaspora, the ships went this way and that way. More slaves went to Brazil. More slaves went to the Caribbean than they did to the U.S.
Yes, they did.
And not only did these ships go there and our people were placed there, but the world gained so much wealth from it.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, tons of wealth. I mean, again, where else have you seen the display of the talents of the people that came out of the west coast of Africa? Like, I don't see that now in Africa today. So
no, it's true.
It just begs me to believe that the people that came out were a particular type of people. They were a nation of people. They weren't just people running around in the bush.
No,
and
not at
was
all.
rounded up and said, hey guys, you're going. You know, we have to understand the politics that was taking place in there, that those that were being rounded up were the children of slavery that ended up there. They weren't natively born to that land.
No, not at all. And that's what I appreciate about Remember the 400 is getting into these types of discussions and talking about our past and our history, that our history before slavery, who we were as a people. When we did end up in the belly of ships, where did they go? Right? You spoke about getting on the shores of Hampton, Virginia. I mean, that was our first descent into the Western world.
That's right.
You know, a person who was abducted, put on a ship titled the White Lion, abducted against your will, kidnapped, taken, whatever, stolen against your will. That makes you a slave.
It does.
And then brought to a new place that you've never seen, never heard of, don't know the language, and were told to work. You weren't given payment. You weren't free to do whatever you wanted to do. You were in bondage. You know what I mean? Why, I think, for us as a people, why would we want to forget that? Absolutely. And then to understand that even those slaves in America were traded with slaves from the Caribbean, were brought up north to Canada, even back to the UK. It just was this circular movement of us. We were property, basically.
Absolutely. Like
how you ship cattle. You know what I mean? And that variance, the slavery, that happened here, right here at home, in even Toronto, Canada, even, you know, Canada itself. And for me, I think I get angry a lot of the times, and I know a lot of times people don't want to hear the word slavery because either what? One, they feel like it's a term that's degrading, it's not empowering enough, or two, they just get angry and they want to go out and you got to do something, you want to do something. You know, but for me, when I think of the word slavery now, yes, I do get rattled up, I'm not going to lie. But I think about, wow, what have my foreparents done for me? What have they been through? What advantages do I have now because of them?
Right.
And what am I going to do now for the future? And what legacy will I leave behind for the future generations to come? You know what I mean? I think as Remember the 400, when we come together in August, to put it all in one day, our history is just too vast to fit in a day. You know, there's so much richness about us that we need a month. You know, like, hey, man, I say we learn about our history every day throughout the school year. You know what I mean? Because we are such a rich and talented people. We need to learn about who we were before, what happened to us during slavery, how did we impact the world, what happened after slavery, slavery by another name, and then how have we made contributions to the world, and what's happening to us now. You know, we never got any reparations. The repercussions of slavery, we suffer so much. Physical abuse and mental abuse, you know, and to me, the psychological, man, it outweighs sometimes so much more than even the physical.
Absolutely.
And like Shadrach Porter likes to say, we are spiritually broken. You know what I mean? We are so spiritually broken. So a lot of times I would hear in the community that we don't know how to get along with each other. We just tear each other down. We can't, you know, and this August for Freedom Month is a time for unity. It's a time for our togetherness, for coming together to say, hey guys, we recognize what each other looks like, what each other have been through. Let's use this month together, wherever we are in the world, to say we look to August to say this was when William Wilberforce has fought his whole life to allow the abolishment of slavery to end, that took effect August 1st, 1834.
That's right. And you know, you made
for our freedom, ending slavery throughout the entire British Empire.
Absolutely, and you made a very good point, because William Wilberforce, he was one of those that was advocating for this for his entire life, and he died a few years before being able to even see that come into fruition. So, but vision again, but he fought to the very end. That's because of ill health. He had to step out of being in Parliament at the time. So again, there are people that have been fighting for us to be free. Why then, just as you just said, why then would you fight each other? You know, this is the time, like you said, in August, it's a time for us to come together and to recognize all those that's gone before us and fought very hard for our freedom today. August holds a significant time, an incredible time for us to let go of all the bad habits. We've had 400 years of real tough, well, this is 401, full of tough times. I mean, there isn't anywhere on record of any people that has endured this type of brutality, this type of affliction for 400 years consecutive, day after day. Now let's make it clear. This is day after day, night after night, week after month, month after month, year after year, without break. No breaks. Like in every single part of human society, we've been afflicted, whether that be in our jobs, whether it be in our homes, whether it be with our children, the judicial system, the health system, the housing system, whatever it is, we've suffered for 400 years.
But the thing, and what boggles me is that you said year after year consecutively, right?
Consecutive.
It's not like this happened a million years ago. This just happened yesterday.
Right.
And yet and still, no one talks about it. No one acknowledges it. Right? And I'm thinking, when people look at our community, or even sometimes ourselves, we look at our community like, what's happening, man? Why can't we get together? Why can't we prosper? Why can't we grow? Right. You know, because we can't even understand, like you said earlier, our past and where we're coming from. Right here in Canada, even in just as a few years ago, back to the 1950s, there was this guy named George, and he was a porter. Right. And this guy named George, he was a porter, George Garraway to be exact. He was a porter, and he would come, this is when all the immigration laws started to take an effect for Canada, he would come and work as a porter on the railways in Canada. And his name was George, and everyone that they would hire after George, they also started to call George, that would come and work on the trains as a porter. And the porter was the guy that carried the luggage, shine your shoes, iron your shirts while the whites were sleeping. It was definitely a segregated railway system, you know, but that's what our people did. And they never got promoted to being conductors on the train. And then everyone after him was called George, you know what I mean? And it's naming everyone after him called George is giving no value to that person. Like, there's no individuality. I don't see you, you're invisible, you're not a person.
Not a person.
You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
These people would leave their islands or their homes just to come to Canada to get a job, just as late as the 1950s, where racism was high.
Very high. Incredibly high. And just hearing that alone has to spark some kind of a feeling inside of you that's going to want to promote change, because we're seeing these same types of behavior in today. And we're in 2020. We're still seeing there's a blockage of jobs for our people. We're still seeing there's inequality when it comes to the workforce. We're still seeing that we can't get on the housing market. We're still seeing that we're struggling to even open our own business and to be able to have them to be sustained. These are the same old tactics being used year after year after year. Now, even when slavery was finally abolished, what happened to the slaves then? They had no homes.
That's right.
They had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
They had nowhere to sleep. So they were on the street. But lo and behold, there was something called a vagrancy law. So immediately now, well, you're breaking the law now. So we take you off the street, you put you right back into slavery. Ultimately, and you're breaking bricks or you're building this and stuff, you're back in it again. So you're in that cycle and system of a vagrancy law that you have nothing to know about, and you're in it for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's slavery.
It is.
You know, just for standing up on the street corner, there's more than 2 or 3 of you.
Yeah.
And so that cycle is perpetuated even in today's society, of that disparity within the home, breaking down, and I have to say, breaking up the home, the family structure of the home, the husband and the wife. It's there to completely segregate, because you look at what happened. And let's go back a bit into the times of slavery, you know, and it's very important, because these are things that we at the Remember the 400 want to also educate and to teach all of our people and those who are not our people to understand, just as why we want legislation laws to change concerning our people. There was times and when the slaves were very, you know, boisterous, and you'd have the men that would want to rebel. The slave master would come in, and just to teach a lesson to any would-be hero that would want to come up and try to rebel against him and stop him from making his money, they would rape the men. The strongest man in front of his family.
Make an example out of him.
To make an example of him. And break down that man's structure so badly. Okay, rape his children, rape his wife, and really emasculate them and bring them down to the lowest possible ebb, so that there is no fight in them, so they will be under complete control. So the family structure in the home, how is his wife or the women meant to look up to these men?
Yeah, the voice is no longer respected.
There you go.
And this is why I was saying, through all this time of activism, and I think with George Floyd, a lot of the times when I would watch television, I felt like the male voice was lost.
Yes.
Like I never saw the black man's voice. And every time I did see the black man's voice and him trying to advocate for change, it was usually a man that was effeminate. And hey, you know, but my thing is where is that, like you're saying, that strong, powerful voice of a black man? I never saw that.
And again, this goes right back to what you're saying. The fact is that we've been so watered down and emasculated. If you speak with a baritone in your voice, oh, you're offending me.
Right.
You know, if you stand up and you've got a strong stature about you, we've got to break you down. And these are the things that's affecting us as men and women.
And women, because women got the stereotype of being angry black women.
Angry black
or the
women.
Strong black women.
There you go.
Like, we're not always that strong. We built up this exterior over time because we had to deal with so much in our home and outside of our home. So we had to become tough.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But
we have feelings, you know, we bleed blood too.
Absolutely.
We cry.
Absolutely.
You know, we had, I mean, just the other day, even with Serena Williams and black women not being heard in the medical field, you know, that when we have pain, it's not believed, it's not taken seriously. You know what I mean? So I think both voices for me, yes, definitely have been suppressed. But during this time with George Floyd, I kept wondering, like, where are our male voices?
Right.
Where are our leaders? Where, you know, where are the ones that used to lead? You know, I don't see them. And that's why something that Shadrach Porter always says is youth leadership by example. With our youth to really become the example and don't look for outside role models in that sense, because you have to grow up to be that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's funny that you even say that, because when we look at the society today, we are told, oh, but you guys are doing really well. And I look at the disparity between the black millionaires and billionaires compared to the white millionaires and billionaires. How many black billionaires are there?
Right.
6 or 7? How many white billionaires are there? You're in the millions. How many black millionaires are there? A few million, maybe 10 million. how many white millionaires are there? 80 to 100 million. So when you start looking at these things and then you take that out and you look at how much the average black income is actually making, it's incredibly low. Once they paid for everything, there is a below borderline. And we're coming back to that point of breaking up the home again. It's a systematic plan, because then if the husband or the wife is not bringing in this money because they can't and they're struggling, therein comes internal fighting. Therein comes the man's voice is being quaked, because now you have a system where you have a home that's given only to the women, but the man's got to be on the street. And we had this, and I've got to speak about this from the UK, because being from the UK, this system was actually set up in the UK, and it was called council housing. I don't know, Canada has it as well, right? It's like this, it's almost like free housing.
Okay.
So you are allowed to have free housing, and this is what happened. Like when we looked at the men and women that came from the Caribbean and from parts of Africa, and they were together and they were buying houses together. You were talking about husbands and wives, wonderful, buying homes together. A particular prime minister who had taken power in the late 70s, early 80s, well, yeah, the very late 70s, came to power and decided, hold on, these guys are buying the houses and owning the houses. Let's give them free housing. So that they gave us free housing. And so now you have the black families now not owning anything. The houses belong to who? Not them. It belongs to now the council house. So now they said, okay, you can stay here, but he can't.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
So it was a system where to break up the household. So where the woman had first priorities there with the children, but okay, so it's my husband, but no, you can't stay here. Or if you stay there, the rent goes skyrocketing, so it brings content. Just go, oh, I can't pay the rent, you gotta go. So then now the black men are out there struggling, and you have these men and women who are now separated, women living with their children, the men out on the street, they've got nowhere to go. What do? Start hopping around, and it's the breaking up
of the family.
No,
I always
always
wondered about that, because you're right, and it's not unique to England, right? It's not. You have Section 8 in the U.S. You have welfare in Canada,
there you go.
And you have your social worker, and you know who lives there, how much do you make, and can you find the child's father? And a lot of times the women might lie, or maybe they really don't know. And the key point in that was always that the father cannot be at home. With the family.
It cannot be
in order to get this subsidy from the government.
This discount.
So it's just, or the discounted housing rate. So it's definitely part of the plan. But for me, and you're saying you're bringing it back to the family. I kind of look at now in 2020, it's up to us. Right? It's up to us to build that infrastructure. It's up to us to come together and acknowledge August for what it is, to say this is our Freedom Month, but also to come together and now build our support system, build our finances together as a community. I mean, for years, like, it's 2020, and I'm still, when you look at the statistics today, we still give $1 trillion to the world. We are the #1 consumers. We still don't allow our dollar to even recycle once in our community. Whereas the Jewish community recycles what? 26 times. The Asian community, the same thing. And a dollar can't even recycle in our community once. It's time for us to come together and empower our black-owned businesses. I say we support black businesses, but black businesses also need to hire black.
That's right.
Right? That's right. In order to build our infrastructure. We, too, need to grow in our trades and in our academics to say, hey, this is the areas that we're going to affect. We're going to affect housing. We're going to affect the medical field. We're going to affect entrepreneurship, you know, but it's time for us, like the onus now, the accountability. We need to build our community, acknowledge our sickness and how broken we are, come together and say, let's unite to build our community, because we're not really looking for handouts.
No, we're not.
Right? Maybe a hand up, but...
but definitely not a handout. And you're absolutely right in terms of making that...
We need to repair our community.
Absolutely, we have to, but we have to make that conscious effort to say, okay, there is a problem here. We understand what's taken place during the 400 years worth of affliction, slavery, and that really it really broke us as a people. It really did, and it's affected us from generation to generation. But okay, in 2020, like you said, what is it that we can do to help to restore our status? What is it that we can do? There has to be some kind of a solution. Now I know everybody's going to shout reparations. That's the first thing, you know, but in terms of reparations, what does reparation mean? What is a reparation?
There's so many things. I mean, like, you can affect change in so many different areas because so many areas of our lives are broken. But even going back to that story with George Garraway, he was the first porter for Canada. The first porter for Canada. There was another porter named Stanley Grizzle. He worked as a porter for 20 years. In Canada, on the railways, called George, you know what I mean? And he was an activist, and he saw the segregation, he saw the racism, he saw the disparity and the way that black people were being treated here, right here in Canada, and was an activist. He fought for social change, and he became the first judge, you know, for immigration, black judge for immigration in Canada. This was around 1910, 1911, when they were making laws. The laws they used to make were, Canada had laws based on, you couldn't migrate to Canada based on the climate. So if your body wasn't suited for the cold weather, you were not able to come here. So who was that going to target?
Interesting, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he became the first black judge for immigration and started to make change in these areas so that we can come and come as a people to work.
Right.
But like 20 years as a porter, it took for him to feel that.
Yes, it did.
You know what I mean? But he didn't stay there. And then when change did come about, he was vocal about it. He did something about it.
Right.
And allowed himself to become a judge to say, I'm going to affect change for everyone in my community.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that makes perfect sense. It's just like us here at the Remember the 400 Foundation. That's exactly what we're doing. We're having to make changes by voicing our opinions, by voicing our statements, but also teaching the facts and bringing the truth to light.
Yeah.
By educating people and, you know, speaking to those in high government, not just low level or community, but speaking to the people like John Tory, speaking to the mayors of different provinces and try to bring them together so that they understand exactly what we as a people have been experiencing for a long time. I mean, it's detriment to the survival of this country and of the world because we are putting in, as you said, $1 trillion. I mean, I don't know what $1 trillion actually looks like, but it's a huge number, you know, and that's all coming from one set of people. What about the other sets of people that's putting in? It's unbelievable, but it's about affecting change.
Yes, affecting and remembering, and because our people, I have to say, we have amnesia quick.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Very
we do these great monumental things, and then it dies down.
Yeah.
After John Graves Simcoe had that bill passed for the Anti-Slavery Act, was passed in Canada July 9th in 1793. Years later, I believe the late 1800s, there was a black man that established the Great Freedom Show.
Right.
And now you're bringing up John Tory. That's why I bring this up, because of John Tory. They acknowledging Emancipation Day last year.
That's right.
You know, years ago, our people did celebrate the Great Freedom Show, and they would do festivities and have things, but over time it dwindled. Yeah. Like our people, it's not the newest thing, right? It's not the newest Nike. I don't know. I'm giving all these plugs to all these things, but we always want it new and hot. But we have to appreciate what we have in our past, like you said, because we had this, and it was a festival around this time. But then it dwindled and it died down. And now, as Remember the 400, and I completely agree with Shadrach Porter. It's more than a day. It needs to be a month. We need the month to come together to acknowledge, because a lot of times people forget the day.
They do. Yes,
you know what I mean? Or the day passes by too quickly and there's not really much of an impact or none effect. You know what I mean? But August 1st means so much more to us than just Caravana.
Okay, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And again, it's more than our people deserve. Like a Caravana. Wonderful. Okay, great. But there's something that obviously, and it irks me. And I have to say, even with our people, I don't believe that our people are of this form of just walking around half naked or quarter naked and just shaking yourself on the street. It's really, really of the lowest kind, you know, and it doesn't represent us very well. Okay, the world is looking on, and they say, oh, that's what these people are, and we're so much more than just that people. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like when they look at us, we're not gangsters, we're not pimps, and so on. But when you look at a black person, they want to say and use terminology that you use with us, and I don't understand that. I don't speak that language.
Right.
Or they want to say the N-word because we're all saying the N-word. So now they think they can call me the N-word. And no, you can't call me the N-word.
Right.
You know, or they're looking at the women and they're thinking that the women are just slack. And these are things, this is inbuilt within our people that needs to be educated, that this came from the forms of slavery, where the women had to dance for their slave masters, where the men were spoken down to, that all they had, that's who they were. You had the slaves inside the house that were looking down on the slaves in the field. You had the lighter skinned poking fun at the darker skin.
Yeah.
Can you see? You had the ones that were mixed.
Yeah.
That had half white and half black in them,
Yeah.
that were raised to feel that they're more superior than the black ones. And these things, it still is in society today.
Yeah.
We see it. Now we're seeing in parts of the world that you could be as dark as I am, and then they're having this cream and you want to bleach your skin to be as white like your trousers as possible.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it's this mental slavery that it's still within our
Sickness,
people,
yeah.
and it's a sickness within our people that we need to educate them and say, look guys, do you remember what happened over 400 years?
Yeah.
How we were treated?
Yeah.
Do you still want to perpetuate that kind of behavior? Do you want to be derogatory to your men? Do you want to be derogatory to your women?
Yeah.
You're passing it down to your children.
Yeah.
And this is always the other thing, the children. The children suffer. They're innocent, born into it, and now they're growing up seeing mummy and daddy behaving like gangsters and hoes, as they call it,
Right.
and they become that.
Right.
And it carries on and on and on and on, and then the world just laughs at us.
Yeah.
They sit back and they make money off us, and they give us nothing.
Yeah.
When we should think back to 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we had the Black Wall Street, where we were affluent black men and women owning businesses. You know, I mean, could you imagine, dressed well? Now, look at the dress, for example, okay, I slightly digress. Look at the way how they dress now to how they dress in the 1921 and those times. Nicely well, respectable men. Now you've got pants down to the knees.
Right.
You've got women half naked.
Right.
I don't understand. And again, they're perpetuating this false behavior of our people. And again, it stems from that mental block and slavery which is in them.
Yeah, I definitely think it's, accountability on our part, establishing our infrastructure internally, while we also externally are going out to create social awareness and social change. But, having people to really understand where we're coming from.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with education, and sometimes education is definitely to people that look like us, but to also people that are not black.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To our brown and brown brothers and sisters and white brothers and sisters that need to understand. I know right now it's mayhem. All the bookstores are selling out like crazy because white people want to understand
That's right.
racism or want to know how to become white allies. They're trying to understand. They don't understand. They don't understand things like racial bias or implicit bias. They don't understand why for so many years there was unequal pay at the workforce. Why are you getting paid 40% more than the white man's getting paid 40% more than the black man? They don't understand that when black parents, like, this is real.
It's real.
When black parents have a newborn, you grow up to be a mother and a father, and one of the best joys of your life is to have a newborn. You're holding the newborn in your hand, and you have to think about what name you're going to give that child. You may not want to give it a name from your lineage, because you fear that someone will think, oh my gosh, they can't pronounce it, or oh, that might not be white enough.
That's it.
You have to find a name so they can have a job.
That's right.
When they get older. Like, why do we have to think of those things? These are our experiences that other races don't understand, or don't really get.
Absolutely.
That if I send the resume in with Shanika on it, Shanika's resume is going to end up in the garbage
straight away, and it's a sad thing, because when you look at it, and even if I go back to the UK a little bit, looking how the actual infrastructure is there, it's very difficult, because I'm a black man, and I've lived and I grew and I worked in the UK and so on, and I used to look at a lot of my friends and even me myself, very difficult to get ahead in the UK based on just our name alone. And then my name is Tyrone. Oh, yeah, you must be a black guy. you know, or one of my friends is maybe Fitzroy. Yep, he must be black. Oh, and it's a Jamaican. And you see, and it's so difficult for us to get ahead. And so then what happens is that I saw a few of my friends taking the lowest kind of jobs, but they're educated. They went to college, they went to university, and they've got it in there, but their blockage was continual. I even had a couple of my friends that went to a major bank in the city of London, major part of London, went to a major bank, and he brought forth his business idea, everything, and the guy sat down before him and said, it's a great plan, wonderful plan, but you know, we really can't do it right about now and all this stuff. And they gave him the fun excuse, you know, the reason as to why they believe it was. But then guess what happened? His friend who worked in there said, okay, let me tell you the truth. The truth is that they were never going to help it because you're black. He said, it's nothing to do with your idea. Your idea is brilliant. And if you didn't have it trademarked, they probably would have stolen it. But it's because you're black. And this is in central London. You know, and so it's very difficult to get ahead based on these types of racism. The banks, like Lloyd's Bank, for example, got to call them out. Their entire infrastructure was built on the backs of slavery.
Yeah, I understand they recently gave an apology.
Yeah, okay, wonderful, give an apology, but let's start thinking about giving a bit more than just the apology, because you've made more than trillions and trillions of dollars off the backs of slavery. Now, we can even go into that. When slavery was abolished in London, for example, they had to pay out the slave traders and the slave owners. But the slaves didn't get paid out.
Right.
The slave owners got paid out. And if you look at the money and the land they were given by the British government and the American government and the Canadian government, it's astronomical. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars today. And we got nothing. In fact, we got a law that put us right back into slavery and put us right back into prison. And our fathers and our mothers serving time in jail for just standing on the street corner because they had nowhere to go. Imagine serving 20 or 30 years because there's a vagrancy law. And the police officers can now take you off the street and put you right back in there and to continue your labor. So you're never really free. So we're also looking about the impact of what slavery of 400 years has done to the black family. The family. Let's make this clear. The family. When you look at the family of black people and the families of others, there is night and day. Why is it they can get along, but we can't as a unit? Because of that in that systematic racism that's going on from 1619 right up to 2019, 2020. That's a long time to break the actual home. A long time.
Yeah, and it's, you say, the family unit, because we were never meant to be individuals per se. We were never, like, society likes to teach you to say, grow up, be whatever you want to be, go live your life. Woman. I'm an independent person, do whatever, or independent man, do whatever you wanted to, right? We were always meant to be a family.
Absolutely.
And even when you go back in our history, you see that we lived as villages. And larger villages, and that whole term, it takes a village to raise a child, and even so much bigger that we were even a nation together. Like you said, before we came on the ships, we were a nation of people that came on the ships. So it is now time for us to come back together like a family in that sense.
Absolutely.
Right? You go get yours and I'll go get mine. We have to do away with that.
Doesn't work.
And say we were never meant, society trains you and teaches you all your life, all your years in school, and says that's what you should be, but we were never meant to have that.
But who are they training?
You know?
Because again, I bring it back to the point of, when you look at the other nations, do they do that? Or is it one rule for you, or is it do as I say, not as I do? Yeah,
because the other communities, you see that they go, they get educated, and they come back home and they continue to build their house up.
That's right.
But our community, we're so broken. One, I don't even know if we acknowledge that we even have a home.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, you know, that we're busy out there building other homes. And don't realize that there's this one central home that we should all come together and build.
Absolutely. And again, I'm 100% for that, because I believe that together as a nation of people and as a unit of people, you're always going to be stronger. You're always going to be stronger. And even Chadwick Porter always taught that you've got 5 individual fingers, but you bring them together, you have a fist. So you're able to make a greater impact. I can't, if I was going to go into battle or to defend myself, I can't say, okay, thumb, go fight.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
ridiculous. You've never seen a boxer boxing with his thumb.
Right.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
Where he brings 5 of them together. Now
Yeah.
he's got 10.
That's right.
You know, as opposed to individuals. You
That's
know, and
right.
that is to what? To make the greater impact. But
Yeah.
if you can separate all hands, then you are destined to fail.
Yeah.
Because you can never make an impact.
And I guess, that's our aim as Remember the 400, is really to uncover our history,
Yeah.
learn about who we are, what happened. I mean, again, growing up, I never learned about John Graves Simcoe. Never learned that slavery in Canada was abolished. Canada was the lead to say, hey, let's get rid of it. And the bill was passed July 9th, 1793. And then later learned that William Wilberforce helped to put it in the entire British colonies. But never would have learned that at school, and this is what we want to bring. We want to bring this change to the school system, to society, to say these are the things that happened to us. I mean, even after that bill was passed for Canada, it wasn't abolished right away.
No, it wasn't.
All it meant was when the Slavery Act was presented on July 9th, 1793, all it meant was you couldn't no longer bring slaves into Canada. So whatever slaves were here would just grow up. Some would still die out as slaves. The newborns got to 25 and they would be free. But a lot of them became indentured servants, So it wasn't like a real abolishment of slavery, but it was a start, And
it's still terrible because, again, I've got to draw back to that point of why we really have to take this accountability and understand that the mentality is what keeps us also in that bondage, in that slavery. Because you just said that up to 25 and then you're free. Well, if you look at the way how the brain works, the neurotransmitters set in terms of your pattern, your behavior, and very, very hard to break the things that you learn and know at 25. So you just learn
it's
a pattern.
habitual at that time.
Exactly. You just
Okay.
learn how to be a slave up until 25. How do you expect to break that mental cycle when it's even physiologically, because I've studied that, at physiological point, at 25, you are set. Your brain has set. Everything is set to that. Very difficult for you to change your pattern in your behavior. And all you're going to do is now pass that down to the next one because you've got nothing else to teach them.
Yeah.
And this is how bad the systemic racism really is, and just how rooted and, may I say, a clever plan, as it were, to really keep a people in slavery.
Yeah.
Because why 25? Why not 14?
Yeah,
Why not
exactly.
21?
Yeah.
25 is when your neural
Why-
pathways
why not 12
are
years
set.
old? Yeah.
Exactly. But 25, your
Yeah.
neural pathways are set for
Wow.
your behavior for life. And it will
Yeah.
take a monumental injury or some type of world change or something happening to you to break
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because as we discovered about muscle memory is not only on your physical, but it's also on learned behavior. It's set in your body. The myelin is set.
Yeah.
So everything you do, it's remembered. It's learned behavior. You can't break from it.
Yeah.
So no matter how much you try, unless you are willing to really make a change,
Yeah.
it can be near on impossible to change that pattern of behavior.
Wow.
So it's a clever move
Yeah, it
to
is.
go to 25 years old for millions of people.
Yeah.
And those millions of people have millions of children.
Yeah.
You're just perpetuating that
That's-
for generations to come.
That's the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, right?
There
You
you
no
go.
longer have to show them the
You
back
don't
door. They
have
just
to.
know to go to
They
the back
just
door.
know exactly
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is what Remember the 400 is about: educating and breaking
Mm-hmm.
all of those chains and bringing awareness to the people
Mm-hmm.
of, look, you are doing things wrong, and being bold enough to say, guys, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Shadrach Porter has been preaching this, teaching this for seminars up and down the country, up and down the world. He's been to London, UK. He's been
Yeah.
all over the Americas, all over
Yeah.
Canada, teaching that as a people, we ought to understand who we are, where we've come from, and to break those changes. And not only that, to also to remember, like you said, those that also helped us.
Yes,
Because
that's right.
if you look at it, there were those that were white people, like the Quakers and on, that were helping and risking their lives for our freedom. And some of them never made it.
And
Some
John
of those,
Brown.
and John Brown. These guys, some of them were killed. Let's just make it, make that clear. So other nations who are learning and going into the bookshelf to learn, they may not know that maybe their ancestors may be part of that.
And we're doing this, like, the whole purpose of this is to heal that whole racial divide.
Absolutely. We don't want to
It's uncovering all, it's not militancy. It's not to go out there and be, I'm a black nationalist. No. It's none of that. It's to say, look, let's educate ourselves. Let's fix our infrastructure with us first. Let's have accountability.
Right.
And then we're going to make change. We're going to come at our oppressors and ask for social change.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We're going to acknowledge and recognize the people that supported us, that helped us along our journey. But we're here to have this collaborative effort with anyone that wants to heal the racial divide.
Absolutely. And that brings us back into this, or part of that healing as well is the categories of reparation.
Right.
There is categories of reparation.
What is all that healing? We have the mental healing, the physical healing,
Yep.
right? The
You've got
spiritual healing.
Absolutely.
We're
financial healing, which is part of it, and that restitution to say, hey, these guys, number one, restitution. These guys were part of a vicious cycle. That needs to be acknowledged.
No, for sure.
100% needs to be acknowledged. I mean, we can detail it all. The second one is like damages and compensation, like you said, like that financial. I mean, how many of us have suffered not being having to get into the colleges or the universities because we don't have any money? But our parents can't even work to get the money to send us because they're
working two jobs just to make ends meet.
Just to make ends meet and just to pay the light bill.
Yeah.
You know, and they're struggling because they've got, two children.
Yeah.
They've got
probably at home raising themselves.
Just because they've got to be at work, and you haven't allowed the husband to be at home be your husband.
It's true.
Because he's out on the street.
Yeah.
I said, it's just this.
And then your children are left at home to raise themselves. And
absolutely.
If they're obedient, they may stay in the house. If not, I mean, they're probably gallivanting out there on the road.
Absolutely. And then guess what happens then? Then they start hanging out with the wrong crowd. Things start to go wrong. What happens again is this is all part of the reparation.
And our young people need guidance.
You need guidance, but there comes in rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Because now they're ended up, like you said, in hospital with mental problems,
issues.
like head problems, like real head problems. Some of them are physically ill.
Yeah.
And so what about that? If you see, like, okay, I'll give you one example that happened a few years ago. One of my brothers is actually deaf.
Okay.
And he couldn't hear. And he was being beckoned to by a police officer. And he couldn't hear him. Thankfully, I was in there. I was in the gas station.
Yeah.
Okay? And he couldn't hear him. And the police officer came on, hey, and like, listen, what? And so I got, whoa. So I've come out of my car and I've gone to meet him, hey.
Yeah.
And in the UK, I don't mind to pull up a police officer. I have no issues because I know the law. And I'm like, hey, you can't do that. Hey, and he's arguing with me, but I'm talking to him. Hold on. First of all, have you checked whether or not if he's disabled or handicapped? No. He said, yeah, but I'm talking to him. Yeah, but I asked you a question. He's deaf. He's registered deaf. He can't hear you. Immediately, his whole countenance changed. So it's about understanding the people that you're dealing with. You can't just go out there and bully people. Someone could have mental health issues. You're going to fist him down to the ground and his head hits the ground, giving him more issues. No, a deaf person they can't hear you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of black deaf people in the UK that have experienced this type of aggression. Yeah. So there needs to be that rehabilitation.
That's the whole reform, right?
Absolutely.
Reformation. It's funny because as you're speaking this and saying this, I'm listening. Yeah, how can they understand the deaf person? It's also like how a disconnect in the community. Again, a lot of times growing up, the officers that came into our community didn't look like me.
Nope.
At all. And then going back to us being a family and even a village, when we did have disputes, who would we go to? Who were our judges? It was the elders.
Absolutely. There you go.
Right? It was people we knew, people we understand, people who looked like us, who understood us, right? And now with the everything with the police departments and whatnot, they come into your community, they don't live there, they don't know the people, they don't know the behaviors, and they're able to do that. So there needs to be a reform, even there. There's the lack of the lack of representation there. The lack of training there. There needs to be thorough background checks, thorough vetting, rigorous training, and representation.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're absolutely right. And then stemming from that would be a satisfaction. Yeah. We need to be satisfied. Yeah. We can't just, accept, okay, we're going to give you $5 million and that will make you be quiet. It's not going to make us be quiet.
Yeah.
$5 million in today's terms doesn't scratch the surface of anything. A building costs $5 million.
Yeah.
And it needs light, it needs water, it needs to be furnished, it needs teachers, so we need to be made satisfied to know that what you have done for us, we need to feel satisfied. We can't just accept anything that you give us and say, be satisfied and be quiet.
And we build, because we've been building.
Absolutely.
You know, as we are doing this, we're building and saying, hey, we need to repair our community, allow us to do that. Like you mentioned, Tulsa, Oklahoma, they were repairing their community.
That's exactly what they were doing. And they had a great sense of satisfaction doing it, because why? As you said, that black dollar was recycling back within to build up the actual community and the people. Now, could you imagine if there was, how many Tulsas? Imagine that. How many Oklahoma Tulsas could be there today had that been able to live and to grow and to blossom? But it was stifled and killed at its infancy. Yeah. There could have been 1,000 or 1,000,000 of those all over, and our people could have been more united, because why? If you look at the history, they were very united. They were together. There wasn't this disparity. If you look at the pictures, you had the family home was tight. You had the businessmen working together, that was tight. People coming in and buying and trading, but no, that was not allowed to happen. So there was no satisfaction. We were completely destroyed from that. And it's very difficult to recover. So I understand why our people across the world are so angry. But yet still not angry enough to really burn down the world. So it kind of shows the kind of people we are. We're not that bad. Right. Because if we really took out our aggression on every single person and people that have done what we've done, there'll be a bloodbath. Yeah. But again, we're not coming with militancy, we're not coming with guns, we're not coming with violence, we're coming with a message. And a message that says to our people, take accountability, look at self, we've tried to rebuild and seek the knowledge and the education that we at the Remember the 400 through Shadrach Porter have been training and been speaking about for 40 years. And understanding that as a people that we can be good, we can be great. And that brings me on to my fifth point. And my fifth point is this. This is guarantees of non-repetition. Guarantees of non-repetition. And what that means is that we want in legislation for there to be a guarantee that these things will never happen again. We want a guarantee because we want there to be a guarantee that in the judicial system there's going to be fairness. You're not going to have black men and women going to jail for nothing. Yeah. I mean, I was horrified to hear a 14-year-old in America was sent to the electric chair. Yeah. 14.
Oh, they used to give our babies alligators.
And you see? Yeah. But you're looking at the deep evil that's taking place there. Yeah. And that's why we want guarantees. We want guarantees that in our educational system that we're going to be treated fairly. We want guarantees in the medical industry that we're going to be treated fairly. We want to be able to go to the hospitals and to be seen just as well as any other person that's walking in off the street. Yeah. If one of our family members dies, we want to know. We want to know. And we want to guarantee that that body is going to be treated with respect. Yes. Not just picked up and thrown in and, you're going to carefully pick it up and put it in. Because you see, that is also showing the mentality again of the system, of those working within that industry or being a paramedic or working in a hospital. Respect us. We are human beings as well. And that's and those are my 5 points for reparations. There has to be, because we've got to target it and aim it. This is the solution. We want, at the Remember the 400 Foundation, to not just speak about where we've come from. We know the aggressive and the terrible history, but we also want to also speak about what can we do to heal, as you said, the racial divide. What can we do to heal our people and to now bring everybody together with the understanding, with transparency of moving forward. That's right. That's the key.
I absolutely agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. So yes, if you're joined us today here on YouTube Live, we definitely would want you to get involved. If you like what you're hearing, please comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Instagram at Remember the 400. We're also on Twitter as well as Facebook. We are going to be August 1st at a protest press conference at Nathan Phillips Square. and as well earlier, I guess at 11:30 a.m., as well as August 8th, if you want to join and volunteer your time for Community Day. Please hit us up, email us, or DM us. Reach out to us any which way, or call us. You can find our number on the website, rememberthe400.com. And definitely join us on August 23rd, globally, whether you're in Toronto, Canada, New York, New Jersey, in Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, or in London, UK. Reach out to any of us, any of our chapters, to join us for our rally and our march to protest for social change and social awareness, to make change, and to acknowledge that August is Freedom Month. So we ask you, if you haven't done so already, to sign the petition on our website, to donate if you'd like to donate. There's a GoFundMe for Remember the 400. You can donate there. The resources go right back into our chapters and gives us enough funds to buy masks and water and do the things that we need to do. You can hire us to educate. We do virtual education presentations on our history as well as systemic racism. For the month of August, we're also asking each day to buy black. And when you buy black, take a picture of your receipt and upload it to Instagram and tag us at Remember the 400. And let's see how much money we can raise for the month of August to support each other. To take it a step further, you can reach out to us to get our August is Freedom Month QR code and place it in your place of business so that we can stand in solidarity as we walk down the streets to say, hey, that must be a black-owned business that supports August is Freedom Month, and that black businesses should support each other. Even if you're not a black-owned business but want to support, reach out and ask for a QR code and place it in your place of business. There's so much that you can do to get involved, so much. I mean, the list is long, it's lengthy. Yep. We have youth that we are empowering and teaching every day. Our youth go out there, they're on the front lines, and they speak to adults and to young or old about our history, teaching them who we are. And we are empowering the next generation, so we really would like to collaborate with other organizations that are like-minded, that want to align with this cause, to have our Freedom Month for August that we can remember worldwide.
And what we would also like, if I can also add,
of course,
we would like 1 million people on August the 23rd. So please tell your friends, your family, come out in solidarity to support us. And let's make it a day to remember so that it can go down in the Ontario legislative law and rules, and that we can have August Freedom Month.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Because August, it tells our story. It marks both our enslavement and our emancipation. And it deserves to be understood, commemorated, celebrated. It's time.
Join us as we officially recognize August as Freedom Month. Sign the petition, donate, and celebrate with us on August 23rd as we take over the cities of Toronto, Canada, St. Louis, Missouri, Englewood, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, and London, United Kingdom. This is an internationally recognized movement. August is Freedom Month. It's time.
Free to learn my name, culture, and my history. For this is what true freedom means.
Thank you so much, Priest Tyrone and Priest Doreen, for all that you guys do. And I want to just say a big thank you to you guys for all that you're doing for Remember the 400. This is going to be a fantastic month. It is our Freedom Month, as we've proclaimed here at the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries and through the efforts of the Remember the 400 organization. I hope you guys enjoyed what they have said. Earlier today, we were at a press conference in Toronto, and we are basically just laying out the roadmap for big things. I want to also be here on behalf of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries and kick this off. This is August the 1st. I want to kick it off. And again, we're really, really excited about August being our Freedom Month. And I want to talk not just to the experts of our people, those who are scholars, those who know doctrine and know history that pertains to the Israelites. Today's message really is to those that are out there in the world. You're out there somewhere. You kind of you're thinking about who you are, but you haven't really connected the pieces. You're wondering what's the big deal. I see all these guys with Remember the 400 t-shirts. You're thinking to yourself, why August? You don't know exactly where you are in terms of your lineage. You don't know where you are in terms of your religion. You're still trying to sort through these things. I want to really have a one-on-one with you, a real one-on-one. So a couple things I would say is that, people have always said, and you've heard this, 100, maybe 1,000 headlines have said, what a year 2020 has been. You've seen it, all the news reported. What a year 2020 has been. We here at the Israelite nation were not that, how should I say, oblivious of the times. We knew what 2020 was going to be like. We didn't know exactly how all the pieces would have come together, but we knew the framework of what 2020 was going to be like from a long, long time ago. We have said this also over and over and over again. So to those of you who know this, it's a great refresher. To those of you, again, I'm talking to the lost sheep. Those of you who really don't know, I'm really trying to connect the points with you today. Our elder has said this for about 30 plus years, to look out for the end of the 400 years of our captivity in this new world. And we are seeing what's taking place. So I want to just go through a couple things. The first scripture we want to talk about is Genesis 15. So get your Bibles. Again, I'm talking to those who are still debating between two opinions. You haven't really got to the understanding that you are actually the people that belong to the Holy Bible. You've seen all the tweets. You've seen all the Instagram messages from celebrities talking about we are the true Hebrews. Sometimes you hear it and you're like, what are they saying? Yes, my people, and yes, to the world, we, the black people who are the children of slavery that came into this new world in the belly of slave ships, we are the holy people that belong to the Bible. We are the true Israelites. So get your pen, get your pads. We're going to go through Genesis 15. I'm going to walk through why we wear these shirts and why this is called Freedom Month August. I'm going to go through it. So verse 1 says, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward in my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one is born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. The God in heaven, remember, there are more than one God. There are many gods, but only one true living God. So the God that dwelleth in heaven is having a conversation with Abram and telling Abram that he is going to make him a family, because the God in heaven wants a family for himself. A family for himself. Verse 4 says, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven and tell the stars, if thou art able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. Almost an impossibility. Abram says, you've given me no seed. The God that dwelleth in heaven says, look now to the stars. And if you can count all those stars, so shall your seed be. If you were Abraham, your mind was probably blown at this point. Like, that can't be. But nothing is impossible for the God that we serve here at the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, the same God that Abraham served. Nothing is impossible. But let's keep walking through, because he's talking about his seed. And what does seed mean? Again, this is not to the experts in doctrine. I'm talking to those of you who are still searching. Seed means children. So keep that as your focus as I walk through the scripture. Abram's children, his children, is being talked about in this chapter. Okay? Verse 5 again, it says, and he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward the heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds he divided not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And listen very carefully. Every one of you who are seeing this video live, who will be seeing this video in days or months or years to come, listen very carefully. Take your pen and your pad, get your Bibles and get your green highlighter, and mark this scripture. It says, and when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he, being the God in heaven, let's take our time. He, being the God in heaven, said unto Abram, know of a surety, know certainly, 100% factually, that thy seed, remember I told you about seed? Seed means what? Children, very good. Your children shall be stranger in a land that is not theirs. And they shall serve them, meaning they will serve the strangers in a land that is not theirs. And they, meaning the strangers, shall afflict them 400 years. Take a look at the shirt. Take a look at the hashtag. Remember the 400. This is where the source of this movement that you see has been rooted. Abram, your children shall go into a land that is not theirs, and they will serve other people, strangers, and those strangers will afflict them for 400 years. Take your pen, mark it. Here we go. We're going one step further. Listen to this. Verse 14 says, and also that nation whom they shall serve, the God in heaven says, I will judge. And afterward shall they, meaning Abraham, your children, shall come out with great substance. You have said, and you keep saying to me and to my brethren and to everyone on Twitter and everyone on Instagram, you have said this to your family, your friends, your co-workers, your neighbors. What a year 2020 has been. And some of you are pulling out the little hair that you may have left on your head, trying to debunk what is going on in 2020. I just read to you Genesis 15. I just told you that the God in heaven told Abram that his seed, his children, one day will be in a land that is not theirs. And they will serve those people. And they shall be afflicted 400 years. You want to talk about affliction? We'll talk about affliction soon. But I want to talk about 2020. You see, when you take the 400, let's do the math. The math says that the 400 years, and we're going to get to this scripture, the 400 years of this prophecy, not when we as black people came into the Americas, but this 400 years starts when the first ship came into the new Egypt, and the new Egypt is America. When the first ship came into America in 1619, specifically August of 1619. Let's do the math, guys. August 1619, count 400 years. Where do you land? You land 2019. Do you know why it's called the new coronavirus is called COVID-19? Because it was first identified in December of 2019. Let me read it one more time for you. One more time. And again, this is for you guys who are out there. You're confused. You don't know what's happening in 2020. You don't know your identity. You're hearing people saying that you're the true people of the Holy Bible. You think it's conspiracy theories. You don't know how to connect it. I'm here to talk to you openly, up close and personal, because you're wondering why I keep seeing a lot of these Israelite nation folks wearing this Remember the 400 t-shirt. And why are they proclaiming so loudly that August is truly and should be our Freedom Month? I'm going to read it one more time for you, one verse, so you understand when I start going into what a year 2020 has been. And let's go again. And it says in verse 13, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also, this is it, that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. So we've got August 1619, when the first of our people who were enslaved came into the new Egypt. And I'm going to get there. There's a reason why I keep saying the new Egypt. I'm going to get there. Make a note. Priest Andal keeps saying new Egypt. Put new Egypt. Put question mark. I am going to get there. So you can start connecting the dots. So you could also feel super, super pumped that August is here and this is truly our Freedom Month. Then when you see Remember the 400, or we talk anything regarding the 400 years, you now will connect. It would resonate with you. There would be meaning to what we're saying, biblical meaning to what we're saying. When you see posts out there on Instagram and on Facebook, or someone is doing a podcast and they trip all over themselves because they don't really understand, but they know somehow that we are the chosen people that belong to the book, now you should know. There should not be any mistakes. There's no debating this. There's no other nation upon the earth. There's no other people upon the face of the earth who has served in a strange land under the oppressors for 400 years and have been afflicted for 400 years. You find a people. Go ahead, Google, take trips, excavate lands, find whatever you can, and bring back to us and show us here is a people that has gone through exactly what Genesis 15 has said. And then I would tell you, well, then those are the people that this is talking about. But for now, I'm going to tell you, it is my people. We are the ones that have gone through that in history. We are the only ones, the only ones. Others have gone through hardships and genocides. Others have gone through slavery. They have. We're not the only ones that were made slaves. But this is very, 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 very descriptive. It says a strange land, serving a strange people, for 400 years and being afflicted for 400 years. No one else fits this model. Then my people that was taken in slave ships, brought to the New Egypt, you got it, and made into slaves, and not just made into slaves, but been afflicted ever since. I mean, we don't need to talk more about that, but you know what I mean. Now let's talk about 1619, 2019. And he says, and then at that time, after the 400, I will judge the nation that put you in bondage, that afflicted you these 400 years. And now you say, whoa, Priest Dandel's coming a little warmer to something. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you, man. I'm getting goosebumps. So you're telling me that 1619 August to 2019 is the 400, and after the 400, God says he will judge that nation? And is that why? Coronavirus? And not only coronavirus, they call it COVID-19, just so you and I would know that it came in December of 2019, right on the mark. If you ever thought and you maybe it just coincidence, coronavirus, why? Why did coronavirus, COVID-19, happen exactly on the 400 year of our captivity, according to Genesis 15? Not only that, he says, I will judge that nation. Don't ask me how long the judgment period is. I don't know, but for the sakes of all flesh, I hope it's not that long. I hope it's not that long, but I don't know exactly if it's a day, if it's a month, if it's 2 years. I don't know, but they will be judged. So what happened? We had Australian bushfires in this same period. BBC News and all the news outlets have reported over 3 billion animals have died. Same period. So people say, whoa, what a year 2020 has been. Hundreds of millions of locusts descended upon East Africa and South Asia, tearing away at all the crops and green leaves. And you saw the headlines, whoa, what a year 2020 has been. Britain has left the European Union, Brexit. People say, whoa, what a year 2020 has been. You saw the impeachment trial of the President of the United States. What a year 2020 has been. You saw U.S. and Iran. You saw all the tensions because the U.S. killed one of the top Iranian generals. They were almost at the brink of war. And again, the headlines were, what a year this 2020 is turning out to be. You see protests, anti-black racism protests, and protests against police brutality, not only across all cities of the U.S., but all cities on this planet. For the first time in history. First time in history. And you say, wow, what a year 2020 has been. No other virus has crippled the whole world like COVID-19 has. Other viruses has brought more deaths, but they've never crippled borders, economy, healthcare systems, people lifestyles. If you look at the news right now, they're predicting the largest amount of starvation across the world right now in the history of mankind. It is a pandemic at a scale the world has never seen because of all the impact it has had across the whole world, across all industries. Now I say to you again, August 1619, the first ship came into New Egypt. And the reason I keep saying that, because I know there's going to be someone who makes a comment on our YouTube channel saying, slaves came in way before 1619. We understand that. Get our Elder Shadrach's book. He wrote The Truth, the Lie, and the Bible. He wrote The Forgotten Israelites. He wrote all those books that he documented this years ago. We know that. We know our people came in as slaves way before 1619. We are talking specifically about the transatlantic slave trade. The first ship to hit the New Egypt is when the count starts. And I'm going to show you why I say that. Let's move over quickly. Well, let's don't do that yet. I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28, but let's hold that for a second. I want to talk to you because you're probably looking at me and the nation. You're saying to yourself, so, wow, I'm connecting with you. I'm hearing you. So what's next? So what's next? If this truly is the hand of the God of the Israelites, because America has taken God's holy people and have afflicted them for 400 years, and now their God, the God of the Israelites, says he will judge them. Then you're going to say, well, geez, this is all over the world. I see problems in Germany and Spain. I see problems in South Korea, North Korea. I see problems everywhere, Priest Andel. Why? I'm going to be honest with you guys. And you can do your research on this. America, or the New Egypt, is definitely center stage in all of this. But every nation on this planet, believe it or not, have taken a piece of my people. Every nation somehow directly or indirectly benefited from our slave trade. They benefited from our oppression. They benefited from our demise. They have. Every nation. You know, I also understand the plight of the native Indians, and I have empathy for them. But just so you understand what I'm saying to you, there are also some native Indian tribes that had our folks as slaves. Hard to believe, but go do your research. So when I say to you, everyone has had a piece of my people, then you start to look around the world over and start to see why everyone is in a bit of pain, because God's people have been mistreated terribly, and all nations have cast lots. They have cast lots for our wealth, our land. They have cast lots for everything that we have, and they have dispersed our wealth among themselves, and we are left naked and bare. It's the truth. This is not hate speech. This is facts. This is history. So you understand why we would stand up proudly and say we remember the 400. Because the God of Israel in the Bible continues to tell our people, remember that I brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So we will always remember that we were bondmen and bondwomen in the first Egypt, and we wouldn't repeat all the garbage that we did. We in this generation, we have lived through this Genesis 15 prophecy. So we cannot forget that. Us nor our children should ever forget the 400 years. Even if it turns into 450 years. Don't tell me why am I remembering 400 years. I have to always remember. Or else I am doomed to repeat the mistakes of my forefathers and go and serve other gods. You ask then, what do we see as the Israelite nation is going to happen in this world or in America? And I'm not going to tell you anything that I'm making up. I'm not that gifted to come with revelations to you. I'm going to echo the words of my elder Shadrach. I'm going to echo the words that he is echoing from the prophets, the Israelite prophets. So here's what we do know. We know that at this time, in the time of judgment, so after the 400 years, 1690 to 2019, there's going to be judgment. We know that their idols will be removed. Your eyes have seen a lot of those statues that have been decorated as slave masters or have profited off of slavery have been thrown and sunk to the bottom of rivers. Your eyes have seen that. The Israelite prophets of old told us that their idols will be removed in the presence of the God of Israel when he comes to judge the nation for what they have done to their children. You've seen it. Is it going to continue? Most definitely. Whether it be the idols of slave masters being ripped down, or the statues of slave masters being ripped down, or whether it be you who are listening right now that have a cross with the white Jesus hanging on it in your living room. Maybe this is your time to say that guy doesn't represent what is written in the Bible, because the people in the Bible were people that looked like Priest Andal that's standing in front of the camera. Black. Told you guys this before, that no nation can truly be free if they depend on another nation to feed them, clothe them, and even beg them to answer their prayers. It'll never happen. So maybe the removing of idols is also you within your own homes. When you now look over your door and you see the white-haired, blue-eyed Jesus that Christianity has put there to oppress you, that you will now take it off from before your door and you will slam it on the ground and you will pound it into a million pieces and you would float it down the river or maybe flush it down the toilet. I am not saying to you to go out there and remove people's religious artifacts. We don't do that. Let the Christians do what Christians do. Let the Buddhist man do what the Buddhist man do. Respect that. Let the Hindu man do what the Hindu man does. But you as an Israelite, you can't do what they do. You got to serve your God. That's the truth. I got no qualms with anyone serving their own God. No qualms. This Israelite nation, we don't fight against people serving their own gods. We don't. Because we know there are many gods. We do not even condemn them, because that's their gods. But I and my brethren, we belong to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We can't do what the Hindus do. We can't do what the Muslims do, because our God is a jealous God. It's so basic, but people will take that as hate doctrine. That's not hate doctrine. Go right now and ask a Hindu if I could become a Hindu tomorrow. Go and ask them. They will look you in the eyes and they will tell you, no, you cannot convert into Hinduism. You can't. You're born a Hindu. I cannot be a Hindu. I'm not going to have hard feelings because of that. That's their way of life. They serve their gods. I am talking about my God and my people. What's so difficult about that? My God and my people, we can't do what the other nations are doing, because that's the reason why we are in the situation of 400 years of affliction in a land that's not ours, serving strangers. Please try to understand that. Take a clip of what I just said and send it to all your family members and wake them up. Send this whole clip to your family members about 2020. Wake them up. Wake them up. This is not by fluke. We are in the situation that we're in, being lynched, hung, being run down by dogs, being put in prison for a lifetime sentence, and we didn't even spit on the sidewalk because we prefer to serve the gods of the strangers and not our God. And therefore, we are left alone without protection. And our God has just left us to the wolves until we return back to him. Then the protection comes back up. Then the blessings get restored. And then the world gets restored to its right balance, because then we'll be a blessing in the midst of all the nations. Follow me for a second. We also know in these times, according to our teachings, that there will be Egyptians against Egyptians. So the new Egyptians, new Egypt, their people will be against their people. We see all the fighting right now. We see in political parties there is a lot of fighting. We see in people generally across the U.S. It's unstable. It's absolutely unstable in terms of the connection between people right now. A lot of fights are happening. And the scripture says neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother. It talks about that in this time. And open your eyes and you will see it. We also know that people will become very desperate because they would not, as I said to you, they would know what's happening. Why? So they will return back to some old-time Gothic practices, some real old-time demonic rituals. They will go to charmers and let's call it witches, and they're looking, and they may even bring back out the Ouija boards. They will be going into these things because they need answers. Why? What's going on? That will happen. People will start talking more about the universe. And the universe told me this, and the universe told me that. They're all going to get crystals and go into the full moon to charge their crystals. They will be doing all kinds of weird stuff because they're desperate. They have no answers. You watch. You watch what I'm saying to you. And the shrines are no different than what I'm talking about. They will gather to the shrines in vast numbers. And when we say shrines, you know what we're talking about. The place of the dead. Any place that brings in a dead body in a coffin is a place of the dead. So if you go to some place to say you're praying God, and a couple days in the week they roll in someone dead in a coffin, you figure out where you're at. Right? I'm not gonna go down that lesson, but you figure out where you're at. But any place that has skulls laid up, that's looking at you, any place that you're walking and you see bodies in the glass floor, any place that you can roll in a coffin and have a showing with someone who is embalmed is a place of the dead. And the God in heaven, he doesn't reside there. You need to know this as my people. You need to know it. Just snap out. You just need to know it. We also know that the economy is going to take a beating. And let me be very, very clear. No matter how much stimulus packages are approved and sent out, no matter how much emergency checks are issued to people, the unemployment rate is going to be at a level where they've never seen it before. Remember why I said that to you. And you don't need me to remind you of that. You can go and research it yourself. Just keep checking your daily news. It's spiking. There will be no food, no work. It gets worse, guys. The Israelite prophets have told us this. Our elder Shadrach told us what the Israelite prophets have said years ago. And we're starting to see it right now. So don't get all clueless and all excited about, whoa, what a year 2020 has been. And let me just remind you, 2020 is not even over yet. We still got some months to go. And I don't know how long the judgment period is. Just pray it ain't that long, guys. Just pray it ain't that long for the sakes of all the flesh upon this earth. And no, I'm not saying this is the end days either. Or this is the final day. No man knoweth the hour nor the time. So this is not a doomsday, end of day type message. Because no one knows. I don't know if the earth is going to last another 20,000 years or another day. I have no idea. But we know about the 400 years. And we know about judgment that comes right after the 400 years. So this is what we're talking about. We know about this. We know that when all things will fail, those going to charmers and those going to shrines and those talking to the universe, the only covering and the only place of retreat and the only place that you can get help, there will be an altar in the midst of Egypt that has been built in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, where you could be protected. You can find sanctuary. And that altar, and I'm going to look into your face, wherever you are, whether you are in Canada, whether you are in the U.S., whether you're in the UK, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Africa, whether you're some parts in Europe, even if you're in the rainforest getting this on an antenna somewhere, I'm going to look to you right now that that altar that has been built in the name of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob is here with the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. And I know, I understand. Some of you are like, oh, give me a break, man. These guys are too much. I know you're saying that. And I don't know how else to explain it to you. I really don't. But I'm making sure it's on video so you understand it. So maybe someone in the years to come, or even now, will be like, something is right about what he is saying, and I need the protection of that altar that is in the midst, that gives a covering and a protection, that is built in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that resides with the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, even a pillar at the border of Egypt. This is what the old-time prophets have said. The old-time Israelite prophets have said. It's not me. We also know this, that the worst is really yet to come, because the prophet said that they would cry. The Egyptians will cry out in that day at their breaking point. They got to get to a breaking point. And then, same God that Abraham talked to that's up there, he said, I would send deliverance. And in that day, they would know that I am God. They would know. Right now, you say God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and people think you're talking about 15 different gods. You say Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob right now, people have no clue. They know Jesus. They know Allah. They know Buddha. They do. But God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in that day, they will know. And they will also know the true identity of those of my people that was taken in the belly of ships and brought to the new Egypt to be made slaves and afflicted for 400 years. In that day, the world would know who we are. And guess what? It doesn't end there. Let me talk to you straight. It doesn't end there. Let me do a time check for time here. Great. So it doesn't end there. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. It doesn't end there. It's not that he would make his name known and he would make the identity of his people known. There is a requirement, people. Every knee shall bow. You can't, like one of my brothers before talked about the Exodus. God came in with Moses and with Aaron to free his people, the children of Israel. They called it the land of Ham. And our tribes were there in the land of Ham. And God says, I'm going to show the difference between the Egyptians, black skin, check it out, go slow with me, black skin, and my people, the children of Israel, black skin. Skin color is not the end all of the equation. You would be very confused if you're judging everything based on skin color. You would be deceived. Ask the question, and I will put it out there. Not every person with white skin is the same people. Go ask them. Not every person who have brown skin is the same people. Go ask them. So why would it be that every person that have black skin is the same people? That's stupidity. It's an error. Only we take that on. It is an error. We belong to a different people, although we have black skin. The God of Israel divided the tribes across the earth. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. That's who we are. And we were in the land of Ham, Egypt. Back then with Moses and Aaron, we were there and everyone was black. But when the Egyptians saw that we were rising high, they said, we got to make sure now tribal war happens. We got to make sure that these 12 tribes of Israel, which is not our people, we got to make sure we put them under the thumb. Because if we don't, they're going to rise above us. That wasn't black on black or African against African. Don't be silly, guys. That was tribal war. The tribes of Egypt knew that we were different. And we knew we were different. We were the 12 tribes of Israel. We weren't Egyptians, although we were black and looked very familiar to each other. But we were two different people. And they all grouped up their own people to make us go into bondage. And God sent Moses and Aaron to deliver us. But not that we can go about our own way and do our own things. The delivery was so they can be a people unto me and keep my laws, my statutes, and my commandments. So in 400 years, now I'm talking about current day, 1619 to 2019, when the God above, even the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is going to do some real heavy things. Don't think that you don't have an obligation, being a child of slavery, to actually return and serve him. Because then you risk keeping yourself in affliction. You risk keeping yourself serving strangers. You risk not being included in the blessings. You risk everything. He is always, he meaning our God, is always looking to gather his children together like an eagle stirreth up over her nest, gathereth her chicks together. So is the God that we serve. He's always gathering his children together. It's not a free for all. Don't think that you can continue doing what you do and you're going to get some great deliverance, and that deliverance would last forever. It wouldn't for you. You have to come to grips with what we're doing. I've heard some say this is a great conspiracy theory, that the black people in America are the children of Israel, and they put a lot of LOLs to it. They've put this in the line of all conspiracy theories and said one of the conspiracy theories out there is the black people in the Americas is the children of Israel. So I again challenge all of you who are listening very attentively from all different nations. Please go to Genesis 15. Please find another nation that you know that has gone into a strange land that is not theirs, served strangers for 400 years, under affliction for 400 years. Find me a nation that fits that bill, and I would, hats off to you, and I would say, you got it, you have educated me. I hear there's that word is spread around, that some of my people need to be educated when they say stuff like, we are the people that belong to the people in the Bible. That they need to now be educated and take some trips to the homeland and be educated. So let me do some of my own education to you. Again, find me a people. Do all your research, go to old museums, do whatever you need to do, please. Find me a people that fits the exact bill that I'm talking about. A nation that is gone to a strange land and served strangers for 400 years, and not served them like some of the times that we were in slavery or bondage, that we at least had our own land and we were at least enterprising and we were doing great. The only thing is we just didn't have our own land and we weren't close to our temple. This is 400 years of affliction. Meaning they're going to treat you like 3/5 of a human. All the while. Even if they tell you you're free, they're going to still come and put a cross on your lawn and hang you to that cross and burn you. Because to them, You are nothing. Which people, which nation fits that bill? 400 years. I got something more for you conspiracy theorists out there. I'm going to go now. So again, guys, get your Bibles, get your pens, and let's go to Deuteronomy 28. And as I read Deuteronomy 28, I want you to honestly, without any bias and without any hard feelings, and I know some of you has been taught for many years a different narrative, so it's hard for you to release your mind from what you've been taught. And I know it's not a popular thing what I'm saying to some of you, so you can't deviate from what you have been taught. I get that. I do. I get that. But only the truth, my friend, shall make you free. Only the truth shall make you free. Truly free. So here's our gift of freedom in Freedom Month to you. Here's our gift on behalf of the Israelite nation and the Remember the 400 team. Here is our gift. We give to you freely the gift of freedom, true freedom. Deuteronomy 28. Get your Bibles and let's read together. And again, share this clip with your family members, right? Share it and get their input, get their comments, see what they think. And again, if you guys want to have real good discourse, and I'm not talking about debates, but if you're like, wow, I sent the clip to my family member and they're mind blown and they got so many questions about this is exciting, call our toll-free number, send us a text, email us. I'm telling you guys, we will be happy, in fact, thrilled to have good, constructive dialogue with you, to teach you the ways of our people and return you back to the true and living God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Deuteronomy 28. Let's go. Let's get it. Verse 15 says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God." So this is not unconditional love. This is not a God who says you can do whatever you want to do. The God that we serve, is that a 10-minute? The God that we serve says that you can't do whatever you want to do. Unconditional. Because I got a 10-minute marker, I'm going to skip all the way down to verse 64. All right? So I got a 10-minute marker. Let's go to verse 64. For some reason, yep, he is right. It is a 10-minute marker. Verse 64 in Deuteronomy 28 says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, because we did not obey the voice of our God. These things happened to us. But the Lord shall give thee a trembling heart and a failing of eyes and a sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. And in the morning thou shalt say, would God it were evening. And in the evening thou wilt say, would God it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see." Get your markers, get your highlighters. Get it now. Verse 68 says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there shall you be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. The Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again." We were in Egypt the first time with Moses and with Aaron. This is a different time. And the first time we were in Egypt, we sojourned there for 430 years. And out of that 430 years, about half of those, we were reigning. But this one says, I will send you to Egypt again, but this time with ships. We didn't need ships the first time with Moses and Aaron. We walked out of Egypt. We walked. Ships to Egypt? Look at America. Ladies and gentlemen, take your time. Look at America. Every symbol that old Egypt had is now situated in America, especially in all the seats of power. Look at their currency, the pyramids everywhere. Look at everything they do. As Elder Michael calls it, the Messianic Christian system comes from Egypt. Look into it. We were taken in ships. Now, conspiracy theorists and all those that says that this theory or this thing about black man being the true people of the book is a conspiracy, find me another nation that was in ships and was taken to a land that is not theirs and served them. Were you the guy who was saying this is a conspiracy theory? Were you put in the belly of ships? Question mark. Were you put in the belly of ships? Did you go and serve in a strange land with strangers for 400 years? My people did. Now challenge me on that. We are the people of the book. People are saying that this is, let me just check my time quickly here. Oh, nice. I got about 11 on my clock, 11 minutes. So let me take my time with this a little bit for you and say that we have been talking about August being Freedom Month, and we are happy to say that a lot of people around the world has taken steps in following this, even coining it as their own sometimes. Now I see African Emancipation Month. I want to tell you something about that. African Emancipation Month. You know, when we were, again, in the land of Ham, Egypt, we were black. The tribes of my people, the 12 tribes of Israel, was among the tribes of the Egyptians. But we weren't the same people. When my people, the 12 tribes, sojourned in the land of Canaan among the tribes of the Canaanites, we were all black. But we were the 12 tribes of Israel, a different people. When my people sojourned in Babylon, because we were taking captivity, we were there, all black-skinned folks, but we were the 12 tribes of Israel, among the tribes of the Babylonians. When we were taken for the Philistines, and we dwelt among them, black-skinned folks, but we were the 12 tribes of Israel. They all knew it, although we were all black-skinned. The Assyrians, black-skinned folks, but we were the 12 tribes of Israel, different people. In the later days, when our temple was broken down and we were dispersed from the land of Israel, because Israel was named after my people when we were there. When we dispersed, we ended up, the last place we ended up was in the western coast of Africa, as they call it, Africa. So we went into Nigeria and we dwelt among their tribes. Well, we were the 12 tribes of Israel. We went into Ghana and dwelt among the tribes in Ghana. But we were the 12 tribes of Israel, even though we were all black. We went into Liberia, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Mali. We went into all these places and dwelt among their tribes. But we were the 12 tribes of Israel. And when we rose, they, just like in the old days, said, we don't want these people because they're not our people. Although we looked familiar and we had black skin, they made a deal with the Arabs and the Europeans. And they captured the 12 tribes of my people. We are not Africans. We went through there as the 12 tribes of Israel. Don't get confused because we were all black. I have heard a story from a Nigerian person that says their great-grandfather owned slaves because they weren't part of our tribe. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. It was tribal war. And all of those tribes there came together towards the 12 tribes of Israel. And they put us in cages. And they first converted us to Islam. And then when the Europeans came, we couldn't go on the ship because it was blasphemy to them. So they had to convert us to their Christian gods, and they had to do their baptism before we got on their ships. It was the 12 tribes of Israel that was taken out of those places. When you look at the Tutsis and the Hutus, they're not going to say they were same people, although they're a black-skinned people. They were tribes. It was a tribal war, a sad one at that. But it was a tribal war. Different people. We are not Africans. And I do have a lot of African fans out there, this nation. We have a lot of people who call themselves African supporters, and we love you guys. But we need to clarify that if you say African Emancipation Month, 54 countries are in Africa. Over 3,000 tribes exist and thousands of ethnic groups. Who are you talking about? Because the Somalians did not go through what we went through. The Ethiopians did not go through what we went through. We are a different people. So freedom means something to us. It would mean nothing to them. So when you use the term African Emancipation Month, it is wrong. My people are not Africans. We are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. That's who we were. And that's who was taken on the slave ships. I can go on and on with this, but I want you to just take your time and look at this shirt. And I'm closing right now, and I would say, remember the 400. We're asking all of you who are listening today to join in on the movement and do some kind of celebration in your part of the world. If you want to know what kind of celebration you can do under the umbrella of Remember the 400, visit rememberthe400.com right now. Send an email and says, hey man, I want to get involved in something this August because I believe what you guys are doing and saying. If you want to add support to what the guys and the girls and the youth are doing out there in the public, go to their website. They have a GoFundMe. You know, people who want to kick out Tory Lanez from the U.S. got a GoFundMe and petitions. They got petitions. Right now I see there's a change.org petition with 17,000 signatures. We are trying to make this our Freedom Month, and we got 2,500. Guys, shame on us. Shame on all of us. Head over to rememberthe400.com. Click on the link to go to the petition. Sign up and say, yes, August should be our Freedom Month. We should have millions of people who sign that up. It's for our people. Fund or donate to the GoFundMe for Remember the 400. They need it. They're out there on their own dime. They're bootstrapped. They need your support. And if you want to become someone who, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Europe, whether you are on the continent of Africa, whether you're in the US, whether you're throughout Canada, you want to do something for Freedom Month and you want to work with the Remember the 400, I'm telling you, go right now to the website, rememberthe400.com, send an email, and someone will be in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time. It was always a pleasure to be here, and I hope somehow you took something from what we said today. Again, happy Freedom Month, and I look forward to all the activities we're doing this month. Until next time, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
Precious stone, I'm royal to the throne. I didn't always know my Father loved me so, until I heard His voice calling me back home. I am a stone, a precious stone. I heard my Father's voice. He is my rock, my king upon the throne. I am a stone, a precious stone. My Father is the truth. I'm standing strong. I am a stone. Precious stone. The path I chose was dark. No truth, no light, no way. My spirit hewn in it. False gods I chose instead. Was stars to and fro. I sang so deep insane. Jacob, yeah. Like Israel, like Israel, like Abraham, like Abraham, like Isaac, yeah. Like Jacob, like Jacob, like Israel, like Israel. I am a stone, a precious, precious stone. I heard my Father's voice. He is my rock, my king upon the throne. I am a stone, a precious, precious stone. My Father is the truth. I'm standing strong. I am a stone. I am a stone, a precious, precious stone. I heard my Father's voice.